Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kortiwada. In this video, we will learn about suspense list component in SolidJS and what is the purpose of suspense list and what is the difference between suspense and suspense list. So actually speaking, in the previous video, I have discussed about the suspense component in SolidJS and what is the purpose of it. Now, if you want to showcase different suspense fallbacks, whenever you have different asynchronous data coming in, to a particular code or to a particular component, then we can use this suspense list. It is a combination of different suspenses together and we can manage this with some set of props. So let me go into Visual Studio Code and let me give a brief introduction about suspense list and how to use it. So here I have a component called as app.jsx. Here we'll concentrate a component code. Instead of writing a separate component, I'll write my logic in the same component. If you want, you can separate that component and you can separate that logic. So now what I'll do is I'll create two things, which is a asynchronous data, something like fetch name after 10. That means I want to fetch some data in an asynchronous format and I want to get it after 10 seconds. For that sake, let me return a new promise, because our create resource will accept the promise and this promise will resolve some set of code and this resolve will return after 10 seconds. So let me use something like set timeout, and inside this set timeout I'll just use resolve state and this resolve will return an object. So let me return an object as 10 seconds after. So just it's a name or a title you can consider. I'm just returning 10 seconds after for our understanding. And also let me give a time in milliseconds. So 10,000 milliseconds is equal to 10 seconds. Now what I'll do is I'll just create one more asynchronous promise, which is after 5 seconds. So instead of doing all this, let me copy this set and paste over here. Instead of using 10, I'll use something like 5. So this should be executed and return the data after 5 seconds. So let me use 5 over here and 5000 milliseconds so that it will be equal to 5 seconds. Now I have two asynchronous promises and that can be called in our SolidJS by using create resource. So for that sake, let me use const. I'll use something like 10 data. That means the data whatever we are getting after 10 seconds. And let me use a create resource, and this create resource will receive a function that is nothing but fetch name after 10. So let me paste over here, and in the same way I'll get 5 data. That means the data which is returned after 5 seconds, and let me use something like create resource, and this resource will receive this particular function that is fetch name after 5. And now let me save this. So this data will be captured after 10 seconds and 5 seconds, and when it is capturing and when exactly it is going into the set timeout, for that sake let me use a console over here, console.logoff. This is 10 seconds, and let me copy the same console, put it over here, and let me make it as after 5 seconds. Let me save this. Now what I want to do is I want to show the data in our UI. For that sake, let me use a paragraph, and inside this paragraph I'll get the 10 data, but I'll just use json.stringify of 10 data, something like this. And let me copy this paragraph and put it over here. This is something like 5 data, either of the case. Either you can use that 5 data on the top and 10 data in the bottom. So let me save this and format. Now go here, you can see the API or the logic is executing in the background, but you are not able to see any data. This is weird as per the user experience. You are not able to see any data, but before that, this is a type of signal. So let me call this as a getter function and save this. Go here, just clean this, reload. Now you are not seeing any data. Let's wait for 5 seconds. So you'll be getting a console over here. It is 5 seconds and you got the data. And let me wait for 10 seconds. You got the data for 10 seconds as well. But there is one problem here. Whenever I load this, the user is seeing a blank screen. He is not able to understand whether it is loading or whether the app has crashed or whatever it may be, the user is not getting an expected result over here. For that sake, what we can do is we can show some indicators like suspense, and we can show them, okay, this is the problem and we are not able to show the data. So for that sake, I can use a suspense over here. Suspense, and let me use a fallback function. This will receive an arrow function and this will return a paragraph which is like loading 10 ... and let me put our logic inside this and format this. In the same way, let me do the same thing for 5 as well. So for that sake, let me use a suspense, and here that suspense with a fallback, and this fallback will receive something like a paragraph, and this paragraph is something like loading 5 and ... So let me cut this suspense and put it over here. Let me format this, save this, go here. You can see loading 10 and loading 5, both you got, and loading 5 has completed and loading 10 is still loading. So here we are loading and we are showing that loading indicator so that user can expect some result over there. But if you want to manage these suspenses, then you have to use suspense list. So which has to be loaded first, or both should be loaded together, how it is possible, and what are the things you can use. For that sake, let me use suspense list. So this suspense list also given by SolidJS. You can see here suspense list is loaded from SolidJS. Let me quit this and go here, just cut this suspense list and put it over here. All my suspenses are inside this suspense list. Now we can control these suspenses by using its props. For example, one of the prop is you can use revealOrder. That means how they should be revealed, whether one after the other or in a reverse fashion. Everything you can control by using revealOrder. RevealOrder will have 3 values. That is nothing but you can see something like a forwards. Okay, so it is something like it will go in a forward manner. So this forwards, how it works is it will wait for the last one to complete. In this case, it will wait for this 10. So let me go here and clear this off, and it will go in a forward manner. That means the last one should be completed or the highest one should be completed. In this case, let me go and reload. The 10 is the highest one and 5 is the lowest one. So the lowest one has been reached, but it is not showing any data. Once it reaches the highest one, then it will be showing the data. That means it is waiting for the first one and it is executing the logic. So let me interchange this. Let me cut this and put it over here. So here the first one will be loaded fast so that this will be shown. Let me go here, clear this off and reload. Now you can see 5 is loading, and once it reaches the 5 seconds, it's shown the data, and once it reaches the 10 seconds, it will show the below data. That means it will wait until my first suspense is completed. So always it is recommended to showcase a forward whenever your suspense is in a list format, one after the other. But you don't want to do that. If you want to do in a reverse fashion, let me go with backwards. So there is something called as backwards. So let me go here, clean this off, reload. So now it is waiting for 5 and 10. So it will wait until both are loaded. So 5 has been loaded and 10 is in pending state. Once it loads, it has been rendered. But it is same as forwards, but in a reverse fashion. So for example, let me put this highest one on the top because it is taking some time. So loading 10 is a time taking process and I used backwards. So it will come from the backward. Once this 5 seconds is completed, then this 10 seconds will be loaded. So let me go here, just clean this off, reload. Now you are seeing this in reverse fashion. So loading 5, it will take 5 seconds. It has been loaded, and loading 10, it is taking 10 seconds. So it is still waiting and you have loaded. So forward is something like it will wait for first suspense to complete, and backward is something like it will wait until the last one is completing its suspense loader. So you can have one more thing called as together. So together is something like it will not depend on forward or backward. It will wait for all the suspenses to complete. So in this case 5 seconds is completed and it will wait for 10 seconds and 10 seconds will also get completed and it's loaded. If you reverse this suspense also, it will wait for both suspenses to complete. Let me go here, clear this off, reload. It will wait for both. Let me clean this. It is waiting for 5 and 5 has completed here and it is waiting for 10. 10 also has been completed. So together is something like until unless all suspenses are completed, the data will not be rendered on your UI. So that is about reveal order. Reveal order has three things: forwards, backwards, together. Forwards will wait for the first suspense to complete and then it will go to the second suspense, and it will wait for second suspense to complete and then it will go for the third suspense. In the same way, backwards is something like it will wait for the last suspense to complete and then it will come last but one, and then it will wait for last but one, and then it comes with last but two, and it will wait for last but two, and it continues. So that is about the backwards. And if you put this reveal order together, then it will wait for all the suspenses inside the suspense list to execute, and then it will be showing all the data at a time. That is about together. There is one more property which is given by suspense list. That is nothing but whether you want to show that loading indicators or not. At some point of time, if you don't want to show that indicators, you can use something like tail, and this tail will receive two things. One is collapsed and one is hidden. So whenever you are using a hidden, it will not show any suspenses. So let me use hidden and save this. So whenever we are using a tail with hidden, if it is always together, then it will wait for both to complete. But it is not together. For example, if I am using forward, then it will not show anything. For forward and the backward cases, the tail hidden will not show any suspenses. You can see none of the suspenses are loaded, but after content is loaded, it is shown on your UI. That means the placeholders are not shown over here. Let me use something like backwards. So let me use backwards and go here. Let me go here and reload. You can see here it is not loaded and it is not showing any of the UI because we are using tail as hidden. Until unless you get the data, it will not load. And the backward feature will work the same way, only the suspense will be ignored whenever you are using a hidden. And if you use together, let me use together. Whenever you are using together, the tail hidden state will be ignored and all the suspenses are loaded. So you have to remember, whenever you are using a tail, if you use together, this tail hidden will be ignored. So let me go with collapsed. Save this, go here and just reload. Whenever you are using together, it will even ignore this tail and it works the same way. So it is nothing but whenever you are using together, it will not bother about any of the tail. But if you go with forwards, save this, go here, you can see first it loading the first one and then it will go to the next one. That means step by step execution. Once the first suspense is ready, then it will go and show the second suspense loader and then it will go to the third suspense loader. If you are using backwards, then it will be going in a reverse fashion. So let me go here, it is showing loading 10. Once the loading 10 is completed, then it will come to loading 5. But by the time loading 10 is completed, our loading 5 data will be ready. So it is showing both the cases. So that's how you can use tail collapsed with reveal order backwards and forwards. So that's how you can use collapsed and hidden. So based on your requirements, you have to use either collapsed or hidden based on your conditions, based on the data, whatever it is loading, you can use either of the cases. So that's how you can use forwards, backwards, reveal order, tail, everything in your suspense list. This helps us to control your suspenses which are present inside the suspense list. So that's about your suspense list. Hope you like my explanation. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off.